Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. So today we have another SCP video for you guys, and this is going to be the Exploring series, the SCP Foundation, SCP-610, the Flesh That Hates. This is one of the big tie-ins from the Sarkic and Church of the Broken God videos. I guess this is supposed to be some kind of, big anomalous viral kind of entity that can mutate and create all kinds of nasty things. It sounds very Nurgle-ish from my 40k journey that I've been going through recently as well. So I'm looking forward to diving into this one. As you can see, I'm doing this reaction live with my YouTube members, so if you would like to come join into these discussions and hang out during these live reactions, you can feel free to click the join button down below. There's also a link down in the description to the YouTube membership benefits. Check those out, see if any of those would have any kind of interest in you, and if you would like to join and support me that way. If not, you can always just give a like and a sub, as I would appreciate that. Helps me and helps the channel grow. And as always, there will be links down in the description to this original video and to the Exploring series channel. So go over there, check him out. He makes a lot of great content. I've been really enjoying his SCP videos so far. So go over there, give his videos a like, give him a sub if you're enjoying this content, and check out his videos, and you can watch all the stuff without my commentary and reactions and etc. etc. But for now, let's get into this here video. Again, exploring the SCP Foundation, SCP-610, the Flesh That Hates. Looking forward to this one. Bada boom, bada bing. Let's get into it.
SCP-610, the Flesh That Hates.
Join us.
Disease has affected humanity for thousands of years, from the Black Plague to smallpox to cancer, causing illness, death, or worse. It's the or worse part that we're really going to focus on today.
Yeah.
As SCP-610 is certainly one of the most horrifying diseases in the SCP universe. 610 encapsulates many of the worst aspects of diseases, such as pain, physical deformity, and contagiousness, but it wouldn't be much of an anomaly without turning things up to 11. It's a fairly old and popular article on the SCP Wiki, but is fairly lengthy due to the number of exploration logs, so I'll summarize things for ease of understanding. We see right away that 610 is classed as Keter, which usually isn't a good sign, and the containment procedures mention the ominous phrase, "Containment is impossible."
Interesting.
We learn that it seems to be currently isolated in Russia, and that any organism seemingly infected with 610, or coming into contact with something infected, should be immediately terminated with small arms and incendiary weapons from as far away.
I could already see an almost like Resident Evil style game being made out of the concept of SCP-610. Again, like the whole Half-Life opening, you're going down to this like underground secret facility where all these experiments are happening, some kind of containment breach happens, and SCP-610 starts spreading. For whatever reason, maybe you're immune to it or something like that, and you have to go through the process of fighting off all these various contaminated people who've turned into mutants and fighting your way and figuring out a way of either destroying it to get all together or recontaining it. That would be pretty dope. That'd be pretty awesome. Anyone out there, that wants to make a game based off this, there's your idea. Just send me the check. Just send me the check. That's all I'm saying. Just
is possibly terminated with small arms and incendiary weapons from as far away as possible. 610 seems to spread through physical contact, and there is little concern for transmission via water or air. The Foundation first learned about 610 from the Russian government, after a number of farmers in a region in southern Siberia went missing, followed by the local police, regional police, and a government agent who all looked into the issue. A small military group was dispatched by the Russian government, but managed to quickly withdraw when they found evidence of the infection, at which point the Foundation was notified. Upon first contracting 610, an individual will develop symptoms similar to a contagious skin disease, such as rashes, itching, and increased skin sensitivity. Within 3 hours, blemishes resembling heavy scar tissue will break out in the chest and arms,
Yikes.
spreading to the back and legs, eventually covering the entire body.
Nice.
High temperatures greatly increase the speed at which the infection spreads, up to as quickly as 5 minutes to fully cover an individual.
Good lord.
Once an individual is covered in the scar tissue, their life functions will cease for roughly 3 minutes, and then they will restart at 2 to 3 times their normal rate. The scar tissue will begin rapidly moving and growing, warping normal bodily features in largely random ways. Sometimes the infection will appear to grow multiple limbs, or elongate various body parts, such as the head, and sometimes parts of the individual will split open entirely, resulting in horrifically misshapen figures.
Definitely getting a very much, you know, a John Carpenter's Thing vibe from this. I could definitely see, again, another kind of movie being made along those lines. If you haven't seen John Carpenter's The Thing, it's an older movie now. I think it came out the year I was born, actually. I think it came out in 1982. It's still a classic movie. A lot of the practical effects is heralded as like what became industry standard at that time. I would highly recommend you watching it. I eventually want to do kind of a review of it from, you know, does it still hold up today, or am I, you know, remembering it through the eyes of nostalgia kind of a situation? But definitely getting very much a The Thing vibe kind of from this, where it like spreads to different things and can kind of mutate it in certain ways and cause different kinds of strange deformities.
Open entirely, resulting in horrifically misshapen figures. Some infected individuals will immediately and aggressively seek out human aid, resulting in further infections. Others will find a place to stop moving and root themselves to the ground, causing their fleshy growths to spread across nearby objects and areas.
Interesting.
Creating an area.
So it'll try to sometimes spread by having the person seek help, or it might spread by essentially kind of becoming almost like a fungal organism or whatever, where it'll just root itself in a certain place and kind of like spread through the ground or the buildings or something like that. And like I could see almost kind of like a spore situation where it starts like casting spores out into the air or something for things to breathe in and become infected. Interesting.
Fleshy growths to spread across nearby objects and areas, creating an area hospitable for continued growth of the infection.
Yeah, kind of like infection in The Last of Us.
The Foundation first sent in remote drones to examine the infected
That is
region.
terrifying.
But after learning that infected individuals aggressively seek to spread the disease and are utilizing a network of tunnels underneath the area to move, they sent in humans. There are a number of exploration logs for 610 for both the unmanned drones as well as the human expeditions. The first exploration...
This is where you need some purifier or Stardies to go in there and clean some shit up.
...was done by... as well as the human expeditions. The first exploration was done by a small unmanned drone nicknamed Herbie. Herbie entered into the vicinity of a small village that had been overtaken by the infection, named Site A. There seems to be an estimated 79 infected individuals in Site A, both mobile ones and immobile ones.
Get the heavy flamer,
this is
indeed.
only a rough estimation. A number of buildings are still intact, but many of them have suffered significant fire damage. After observing the village from a distance, Herbie is moved to enter Site A and follow an infected individual into a home. The home contains multiple infected organisms,
Jesus.
And Herbie records the walking infected.
I do like that someone has actually taken the time to make this art. This looks, I assume this is like some kind of clay art and like modeling. You can kind of tell from like the scaling, this is like a zoomed in picture with the lighting and all, but this is very well done. This is very cool looking, but also extremely creepy and terrifying. This looks like a family who's been infected and they're about to sit down and eat each other for dinner or something. Like this is the grandpa from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, who pretends to be sick so he don't have to do anything. You know what I mean? And he's like, oh, it's dinner time. Let's get up. Nom, nom, nom. Anyway.
Moving around contains multiple infected organisms, and Herbie records the walking infected moving around the small home multiple times before stopping at another infected sitting on a bed. The infected individual proceeds to assault the bedridden individual with a series of furious punches, causing them to flail their arms and unleash a piercing sound. The individual being beaten then projects a cloud of unknown matter from its chest cavity.
Interesting.
And the first infected stops its punches and again moves around the home. It sits at the table, and tendrils from its face extend out and break off onto a few plates. It then leaves the house, and shortly after, a group of infected enter the home and consume the infected material from the plates, pressing it into whatever orifice they can on their bodies.
Well, I was joking, but I was literally correct. That's terrifying.
The group leaves.
Jesus Christ.
So does Herbie, who bumps into the first infected individual. Their facial tendrils are intermingling with another infected. But Herbie continues on into a store.
So they're two infected are just kissing, is what he finds. They're making out in the corner somewhere.
Here he finds more infected, but also a Russian soldier who doesn't seem to be moving, but his eyes are constantly shifting, often focusing on Herbie. In the back room, Herbie finds a pile of bodies, seemingly both Russian military and villagers, but an infected sits on top of the pile, flailing and projecting spores into the air.
Jesus.
Herbie leaves the store, spotting a group of infected with their arms connected, standing around a well. One of the infected, a girl roughly 11 years old, grabs Herbie and stares at the drone. The girl's face suddenly expands and explodes outwards as fleshy flaps grab Herbie and draw it inside the girl.
Fuck?
The video feed ends here, but resumes 5 hours later as Herbie's camera is pointed straight at the well, with a slimy film oozing across the lens.
So she ate and then shat it out. Fucking Herbie went for a ride, brother. I'm already at the point where I'm just saying nuke all this shit, man. Just fucking straight up. Aliens, nuke the site from orbit. Just like not even one, like multiple nukes. I'm talking, you know, like the Tsar bomb, like the giant fucking hydrogen bomb that the Russians dropped, man. Like, end this shit right now.
Herbie responds to no commands, but the camera seems to be moving.
Like Lady in the Tramp of Fleshy and Gross. Jesus. Yeah, Exterminatus. Exactly.
During the construction of the containment perimeter, several D-class personnel were infected, and although most of them were put down immediately...
I have a question. Do all the D-class people, do they wear red shirts? Is it, you know, is it Star Trek canon? Or is it all the red shirts are expendable?
Several D-class personnel were infected, and although most of them were put down immediately, a few were put into cold storage in order to slow the infection. In hopes of finding out more information, and possibly an origin for 610, 3 infected D-class were sent into Site C, which seems to be
orange from what you remember. Close enough.
Infected. The D-class are each given a pistol, some food, and an emergency flare, and are also given a gallon of gasoline.
Food, pistols, a gallon of gasoline, and an emergency flare. Go have fun, guys. You know, we'll be right over here. We'll be right over here watching. We got your back, dude. No, I would just like, if I saw this shit, like if I straight up saw this shit and I was a D-class person and they told me to go off and do this, I would just fucking kill myself, dude. I'm like, no, brother. I would just put that gun to my head and end it right then and there. I'm not dealing with that shit. Fuck that, man.
They are instructed to enter the site and focus on observing. But if they are attacked or are about to succumb to the infection,
that's what I'm saying.
They are to cause as much damage to the site as possible. As the D-class enter the site, the ambient temperature rises sharply, reaching 32 degrees Celsius or 89 degrees Fahrenheit.
Pretty warm.
Keeping in mind this is Siberia. The primary cause of this seems to be a large number of pylons arrayed around the site, which appear to be 2 to 4 infected individuals fused together. Heat vents out of various holes on these pylons, and it's believed that this is an advanced stage of 610 terraforming the environment.
Interesting.
The D-class, who is furthest along in their infection, begins to have a seizure, with the infection covering their body in 45 seconds. Another D-class kills them with their pistol, leaving their equipment where it is. While perimeter control is giving new instructions to the 2 remaining D-class, the ground underneath the dead D-class opens up. A series of ropey tendrils come from within the gap and pull the corpse inside before
straight up the thing
up again, in the matter of a few seconds. The remaining 2 quickly move into the village, and
oh, hey, it's DayZ. We're in Chinaris over here now. After the last survey, some nation member cruncher was like, came in, drones and expects to send in the D-class, right?
Find a fleshy sphere suspended above the community well by other fleshy growths. The sphere is comprised of both infected humans as well as infected deer and bears, and it continually pulses every 5 seconds, causing spores to project outwards and float to the ground.
Nice.
One of the D-class begins dousing the sphere with gasoline and lights it on fire with their emergency flare. A tremendous noise is heard from an unknown location that is described as both explosive and alive. The sound is heard by perimeter control near both sites A and C, and 15 seconds after it stops, a series of explosions occurred at Site A, and finally, the sphere explodes. One of the D-class dies instantly from the explosion, but the other D-class manages to stand back up, and the video footage seems to show them getting flung through the air before an unknown creature smashes the video equipment. When the sphere in Site C was destroyed, aerial footage of Site A showed the infected of Site A going into seizures and convulsions. Immobile infected shriveled up and died, along with any fleshy growths covering objects, and the mobile infected made their way into a single building.
Man went all out with his art, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's very disturbing, but at the same time, you gotta give him credit for, like, putting in this much, like, work and detail on this shit. Like, how detailed, like, the bodies are, how fleshy they look, all the blood and gore and everything, all the organs, like, it's disturbing, but you gotta give it to him. It's very detailed.
This building soon collapsed, revealing a sinkhole underneath it. The sinkhole is the size of 3 men standing shoulder to shoulder, but objects dropped do not produce an impact sound, suggesting a depth of possibly greater than 1,000 meters.
Right.
Research quickly showed that all presence of 610 infection died at Site A above ground, allowing the Foundation to properly set up stations within the village.
So they burned it, and it died from being burned. So obviously, I guess it doesn't like fire. Or at least it sounds like it died. It could have, being that it was between Site A and C, it could have just pulled away from Site A, right? You know what I mean? And just left that hole there. And they just think it's dead.
They quickly gathered what materials they could, but 2 hours later, seismic activity began to occur, forcing them to retreat back to the perimeter. Immediately after the earthquake stopped, a torrent of spores erupted from the sinkhole, covering a 50-meter radius around it. Right after this,
y'all got
staff
played.
Members still on site in hazmat suits were attacked by birds infected with 610.
Y'all got played.
Many of these creatures attacked by splitting their heads in half and clamping them down on individuals, pulling them into the air and dropping them into the hole, although only 2 research staff members were dropped into the hole. The creatures were put down with small arms fire, but a second seismic event occurred, causing another eruption of spores, followed by a new 610 entity emerging from the sinkhole. This entity appeared to be an engorged human head, 20 times larger than normal, with no discernible body. The earthquake reached to a 7 on the Richter scale before abruptly stopping, at which point video and radio contact was lost with the on-site team.
Right, yeah, definitely seems like a hive mind.
Found afterwards, and they are considered lost.
It definitely does seem like a lot of the, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. It could just be coincidence, but from, you know, watching the movie John Carpenter's The Thing, a lot of this creature does kind of seem to play into that. It does seem very similar to the thing. You know, this kind of every cell is alive in its own individual thing, but it also comes together as like a greater overall being, and is able to possess other creatures and kind of control them in certain ways. So it's like, it's an individual thing, but it's also a hive mind. So I could see a lot of influence of 610 coming from the thing, for sure. Especially since there's physical props, not digital. They look amazing. Right. Yeah,
Clearly, there were far
the
worse
art stuff's
instances of the
insane.
infection located underground, and so the Foundation sent another unmanned drone to explore the sinkhole and any tunnels or caverns it led to. This drone was equipped with aerial capabilities, and begins to fly down the sinkhole for a couple of minutes. Examination of the sinkhole walls leads researchers to believe that it was formed due to a single event, rather than dug out over time. Traces of 610 material are found on the walls, an increase in density as the drone continues to descend. Small tunnels branch off from the sinkhole, but 250 meters down, the bottom of the sinkhole comes into view, sloping sharply into a tunnel heavily coated with 610 material. As the drone continues,
I like how they're saying 610 material. Like, that just leaves a lot to the imagination in and of itself.
through the tunnel heavily coated with 610 material. As the drone continues through the tunnel, it spots a live deer wriggling while being held in place by tendrils. Further on, there are a number of large lumps along the tunnel, which seem to be heavily infected humans. The drone flies past a running stream of water, at which point the tunnel splits, with one descending and one ascending. The drone is sent on the ascending path to make it easier to recover, and continues along the path for 45 minutes, finally coming out of the tunnel into a windy, mountainous region. Here there are the remnants of another village that was once heavily afflicted with SCP-610, and it seems that the buildings still here were constructed entirely out of 610 material.
Nice.
With little else to see here, and the high winds making drone recovery impossible, the drone is sent back into the tunnel. A deep roaring sound is heard, and the video feed begins to cut out, but shows the drone quickly descending down the tunnel. Finally, the feed shows a massive distorted human face filling the tunnel and rushing up towards the drone.
Nuke
The
it.
onboard weapons are utilized to fire on the face, but the wounds on the entity quickly heal, and soon the drone is swallowed.
Protosarchics? That would make
3
sense.
hours later, the video feed comes back for a few moments, showing a series of structures and a vast number of infected individuals. The camera pans on its own before being destroyed, as if something wanted to show this.
What did he say?
Infected individuals. The camera pans on its own before being destroyed, as if something's back for a few moments. The drone is swallowed. 3 hours later, the video feed comes back for a few moments, showing a series of structures and a vast number of infected individuals. The camera pans on its own before being destroyed, as if something wanted to show this. You can likely guess what comes next, but now that it's clear that the 610 infection is spread deep underground, and they seem to be capable of creating tunnels, the Foundation approved a manned assault excursion.
How about no?
A total of 5 teams were sent into the tunnels, 2 research and 3 assault, in the hopes of setting up a base of operations from which a full assault could commence. The teams descended into the sinkhole and quickly set up a base where the tunnel split. After a base was set up and samples were gathered, the expedition continued on into the unexplored
Are these teeth? Are y'all walking into some kind of weird ass mouth?
descending tunnel. The group walked the tunnel for 20 kilometers without encountering any 610 entities, and so they requested a transport buggy be brought down to aid the exploration. While waiting for it to be delivered, the team was ambushed by a group of large 610 infected life forms who were seemingly coming out of the walls.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is where we're getting into aliens. This is where we're starting getting into aliens here with them coming out of the walls. And then I can hear the ping of the motion sensor right now. The beeping, 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 beeping. I hear it. I can hear it in my brain. I can see it.
Or perhaps being formed from the materials on the walls. These life forms seems to entirely consist of 610 material, instead of an infected organism, and small arms prove to be nearly useless, forcing the assault team to rely on incendiary weapons. Unfortunately, a large number of the team were swept away in the water current that ran alongside the tunnel. The assault team now consisted of 3 members, with only a single flamethrower, although they did each possess their standard firearms and short-range personal incendiary weapons.
Yeah, okay.
They are instructed to continue the exploration.
That's gonna help.
And attempt to locate the lost team members that went into the water. A further 20 kilometers...
What do they mean by personal incendiary weapon? Is it some dude sitting there with a lighter and like a can of, like a spray can? Like, is that what he's saying about personal incendiary weapon? You're just gonna assume like, psh, like what? What are you talking about?
Attempt to locate the lost team members that went into the water. A further 20 kilometers in, the river split away from the tunnel, forcing the team to abandon the rescue mission, in lieu of continuing along the tunnel. A number of hours later, the team reached the end of the tunnel, where they were again ambushed by 610 entities that seemed to be waiting for them. They managed to eliminate the entities, but used up the rest of the fuel in their flamethrower in the process.
Gotcha.
The tunnel opens up into a cavern containing a somewhat primitive village, with buildings clearly made by humans.
Portable flamethrower.
Notably, there is a church with a working clock tower, and surrounding all the buildings is a depression in the ground filled with what looks like liquefied 610 material. The liquid ripples and moves of its own accord, and the team avoids it as they head towards the church. They have so far not seen any living...
The fucking, like, whispered voice talking in the background is very creepy.
The team avoids it as they head towards the church. They have so far not seen any living entities as they enter the church, which contains 4 pews and a pulpit. For some reason, the inside of the church is immaculately clean, and there is a hole behind the pulpit which contains more of the liquid material. Suddenly, the bell in the clock tower tolls, triggering a shuddering and the sound of human screams coming from the ceiling of the church. The team shines their lights on the ceiling, revealing a large mass of 610 material and 6 wooden circles. Strapped to the circles are live humans, coated entirely in 610 material, except for their heads. These humans continue to scream as the wooden circles descend towards the floor.
It's like the entity is alive, and because it was like, well, I mean, obviously it's alive, but it's like, because it was attacked by people, it's now like making examples of these people. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like sitting there saying that, like, look, if you keep fucking with me, I'm gonna do this to you guys. That's kind of terrifying. That's kind of terrifying.
The team hears a creature cry out from outside of the church, and they extinguish their lights and hide behind the pulpit.
But it is also interesting they're creating a church. Like, this is kind of starting to get into some Bloodborne shit. If you get any, you know, I'm sure plenty of you guys out there are watching us have played Bloodborne, but now we're getting into some like kind of eldritch horror Bloodborne. You know, we are born of the blood, made men by the blood, we die by the blood. Kind of stuff going on here, man. You know what I'm saying? Fear the old blood. Fear it, Lawrence. Make me want to play that game again. I haven't played Bloodborne in a while. It's fucking awesome. But just like the idea of these like blood kind of creatures coming out of this church, and these humans that are being kept alive almost as like shown as an example, and or potentially being part of some kind of ritual that's about to happen. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Cry out from outside of the church, and they extinguish their lights and hide.
That's why I still think it's part of Sarkar. Infected people still remember their religion to some extent. Well, and it also kind of makes sense because in both the videos, the Church of the Broken God and the Sarkic video, they mentioned that there was some kind of giant living organism that was a temple. So maybe that's really what 610 originally was some kind of giant living, organism that was used as a temple to Yaldabaoth, and they did some kind of crazy shit like what is going on and being described here. And eventually the Mechanites destroyed it, or at least they thought they did, but maybe they didn't get all of it. And, 610 is what's left over from it. Something like that. I don't know. But it could also be like you're saying that, 610 maybe has absorbed a lot of the proto-Sarkics and their memories become part of it. Like you said, kind of like a hive mind. It doesn't just absorb the material, it also absorbs their knowledge and personality and memories. So their, strong beliefs are affecting what 610 does and its actions, kind of a situation. So that could be part of it too. Bloodborne is one of the few Souls games they managed to beat me, and I still haven't dude. Bloodborne is my favorite Souls game. I love Bloodborne. It is. I'm generally not one of the people that really like cares for remasters or remakes or reimaginings, but Bloodborne's one of those games that deserves it. It deserves to be on a proper engine with at least 60 FPS, updated 4K graphics, all that kind of stuff, ray tracing, and it needs to be on the PC. I'm just saying. But anyway, so yeah, I wonder if 610 is kind of a fragment of what's left over from whatever that creature was they talked about, or if it's something different entirely. Maybe it got on troll, or maybe they did it on purpose. Who knows? Yeah.
Hide behind the pulpit.
Come on.
Descend towards the floor. The team hears a creature cry out from outside of the church, and they extinguish their lights and hide behind the pulpit. A figure, seen past the doorway of the church, brings a torch and lights a series of candles, as well as a rope coated in 610 material that causes the fire to spread up to a chandelier system. The light from the chandelier illuminates the captive humans, showing that they seem to be covered in a different type of material that's red and constantly shifting. A group of infected entities enter the church and begin ripping off the red material from the humans, causing them to scream even more. It's believed
sounds like, yeah, it's like ripping off their flesh or something.
Humans, causing them to scream even more. It's believed that the red material is using the humans as a food source, and the infected entities then consume the red material. The infected continue feeding for 6 minutes before the torchbearer hits a gong. And
can you imagine that being your existence then? You're like a human that's kept alive so that this material can feed off of your body to then have it be ripped off of you so that these other creatures can eat it. Like, Jesus. Yeah, just fucking end it, dude.
And the infected continue feeding for 6 minutes before the torchbearer hits a gong, and they take a seat in the pews.
Right.
The torchbearer then suddenly collapses, and a pillar of infected flesh emerges from the hole behind the pulpit, reaching towards the pews. 10 minutes go by, with nothing making a sound or moving, including the captive humans, and finally the flesh retreats back into the hole. The infected entities leave the church, and eventually so do the 3 team members. As they leave the church, however, one of them gets suddenly thrown through the air by a large tentacle, and a flood of infected entities come out towards the remaining 2. The 2 drive back the horde as best as they can as they make their way back towards the buggy, but one of them is killed by the torchbearer entity, who now wields a large crop scythe. The final team member makes it to the buggy, but finds it half covered in 610 material.
Nice.
And looks desperately for another way out. The scythe wielder approaches them, 2 shots are fired, and the camera feed goes out. No further expeditions have been sent into the area thus far.
Yeah, I can understand why.
SCP-610 is among the highest rated articles on the SCP Wiki, largely because it's just so incredibly weird. While we certainly have behavior-altering parasites in our world, such as one species of the cordyceps fungus,
Yeah.
there's nothing nearly
Which that's what The Last of Us. God damn it! Pause. That's what The Last of Us is based off of. Is the cordyceps fungus or whatever that can, like the spores can burrow in and turn things into zombies. You know, so that stuff is real. It is out there, and it can't happen.
While we certainly have behavior-altering parasites in our world, such as one species of the cordyceps fungus, there's nothing nearly as horrific or complex as SCP-610. The original author of 610 wrote it as a standalone article, but over time, as the concept of sarcasm developed on the wiki, many in the community have accepted 610 to be an integral part of it. There have been multiple mentions of the Sarkic cult utilizing a disease known as the Red Death, and it's believed that 610 is their ultimate weapon in their goal of reshaping the planet. Whether a standalone SCP or part of something much larger, SCP-610 is a brilliant and terrifying showcase of the ravages of disease.
I mean, the author alone, just for the story, and if the author is indeed the person that did all this artwork and whatnot, someone in Hollywood should hire him and start doing some horror movies, man. Because, I mean, like, this is pretty disturbing, but it's very well done, dude. Like, you can't deny, like, this was a lot of detail and time taken in here to make this. So, like, yeah, someone hire this dude. All right, we're at the, what do we got for the quote here? 7 and so in the cold land, the flesh spread its horrors throughout Kythera. 8 and Juan banished them and his hammer, but it was too late. Kythera had fallen. Nanwan spoke mournfully, and his signal was heard throughout the land. 10, the flesh cannot truly die. When it comes again, Kythera will once more fall. 11, 5 years shall pass after the end of Kythera, and the flesh shall come again. 12, when it does, another year shall pass, and the great battle will begin. The Maxwellian Book of Horrors. Interesting. Interesting. Anything more? No, that's gonna end that. Okay. Well, I mean, there you go. Very, like I said, kind of throughout the movie, very much seemed that there's a lot of comparisons you could make with John Carpenter's The Thing. And this could be kind of, and I don't know if it is in fact, you know, influenced by it. You could definitely see that it could be influenced by it, and it could be kind of this person's idea of what more could have happened had the thing gotten more of a stronghold and had time to really spread and you know, gain more mass and gain more material, whatever you want to say. More people, maybe it could have influenced the thoughts, but it very much sounded like yeah, some of the whether it was that 610 had this kind of its own maybe a religion or belief system or whatever. Maybe it is part of, you know, everything that happened with the Aldebaoth, and it's still kind of you know, maybe 610 was originally like a person of a Sarkic religion, and maybe through some kind of ritual or some kind of sacrifice, you know, the Aldebaoth gave it this power and it mutated. You know, that could be an interesting, you know, origin story of it, or whether or not that it was just some kind of, you know, infectious disease or whatever that spread, and as it consumed things, it gained, you know, the knowledge and memories of all these creatures, and so it's got kind of this hive mind amalgamation of ideas and thoughts, and it's based kind of this religion still off of a lot of those people that absorb, specifically a lot of Sarkics. But very interesting. It the story definitely kind of took some inspiration, it seemed like, from different, you know, movies and different genres. Like I said, it kind of went from John Carpenter's The Thing to the the aliens, and then to kind of very bloodborne-y, eldritch horror-y kind of stuff, but very, very fascinating. And it seems like, I mean, it seems like it's not contained at all. It seems like it's just some kind of entity that's out there underground, and yeah, and that's it. Like, I don't know, if I were anyone in charge of the SCP, I would say nuke the shit out of it, dude. Like, you gotta nuke this thing before it takes control. It also almost kind of feels like it was wanting to show them that, like, you hurt me, so this is what I'm gonna do to you, and humanity, you know, with it taking the camera and panning, it understanding, you know, what the drone was and its technology, and showing them, you know, the various bodies and people, and it looked like it let them see kind of this ritual that they were doing, and what was gonna happen to people, that they were gonna be, you know, turned into some kind of like food farms for it. Like, I don't know, that's just terrible. But the author, like I said, as we went through it, did a very good job with the story and detailing a lot of things. And if he's the one that also did a lot of the artwork for it, man needs to get hired by someone in Hollywood or something, man, because he definitely knows what he's doing. He put together a decent story and put together some very disturbing but cool looking, you know, art that to go along with it. So very fascinating story. It is definitely the title fits it, The Flesh That Hates. I think my internet might be dying again. But anyway, we're gonna wrap this up here. Appreciate you guys. If you like this video and you're watching it here to the very end, I greatly appreciate it. If you're still around watching it, do consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me, it helps the channel grow. Really appreciate you guys. As you can see, we are doing this live here for my YouTube members. So if you would like to, you can hit the join button down below, somewhere down below, and take a look at the YouTube memberships, see if any of those have any interest to you, and you can come join in while we do these live reactions and join into the discussions. If not, consider leaving a like and a sub. Like I said, it helps me and it helps the channel grow. And I just greatly appreciate you guys coming in, hanging out, and checking out the videos. And yeah, appreciate y'all. Hope you're having a wonderful day whenever you see this. And I'll see you guys on the next.